So this is a slide of the Heritage Foundation, which I'm sure everybody's familiar with, but it's a conservative think tank, millions of dollars to misinform the public about scientific truth. So this is one of their recent articles, 5 Facts the Left Isn't Trumpeting, about Paris and climate change, where they talk about how good coal is for the country, how the planet isn't actually warming. And it's written in a sort of scientifically compelling manner, and usually with some form of a reference to a scientist loosely defined or somebody with some form of credentials to put forward these opinions. And so I think for people that don't really understand what they're looking at, this can be very convincing. And this, depending on what your ideology is or where your beliefs lie, I think this can kind of create a different version of scientific reality.
So Jerry, yes, the famous Illuminati.
Yes. Yes, I'm curious about this one as well. I wanted to convey the idea that we seem to be living in this post-Enlightenment era where narratives count for more than facts, that a compelling narrative feels true in a way that facts need not. And coupled with narratives winning over individual facts, there's the idea of the confirmation bias, which we teach to our students, that if you have a theory in mind, you can find evidence that it's true. And so if a narrative becomes viral or widely accepted, then people will find reasons to believe that that thing is true, because the world is ambiguous and full of crazy stuff, and you can find supporting evidence. So I'm a connoisseur of paranoid conspiracy theories. I love conspiracy theories, and if you ever come to write your tenure case up, you have a bunch of unrelated papers and you're supposed to come up with some narrative that takes all these things and says how really there's an underlying theme that unifies all these random papers that seem to have nothing to do with each other. And you're supposed to provide that sort of narrative that then you hope that the outside reviewers will say, oh yeah, I can see how these things link together. So one of those is the belief that there's some sinister conspiracy of the Illuminati, and you can tell they're around because they always have this symbol that turns up. It's like on the back of the dollar bill in the United States. This is the Illuminati picture, which I found online. Briefly, when Dick Cheney wanted to launch the Total Information Awareness Initiative, which was going to be this sort of orb in Washington that drew all of the data sets together, that was their proposed symbol for it, which I thought was too hilarious. And then there's Fidelity, which is one of the world's largest investors in this giant financial institution. And what do you know? They follow that same Illuminati. So if you go in with a paranoid mindset, or if you go in with a narrative, you can find facts that will fit it. They become alternative facts because they fit into a kind of a narrative or framework that you have that seems to be impervious to actual facts. I have another example, but I don't want to use up all of our time. So
I have a great example too. We'll
okay.
talk over lunch. Yeah, we'll see if we. Okay, so that was fascinating. Thank you, Dirk. We've got you. So Dirk, I just want to mention is giving us an art history lesson as well. So there's a fantastic set of slides here, which are really interesting. That I will let you.
Well, us academics are good at writing stuff. When it comes to art, it can get in any direction, so I just hide behind authorities. So this is a picture by René Magritte, surrealist, and I think it basically for me points to the simple fact that none of us has an objective concept or perception of the truth. Even if we get very close to the point of an optical delusion, it's a painting, it's a subjective rendition. Now you can ask yourself, why is that more an issue today than it used to be? Obviously, again, it's not new. Surrealists and Dali, they were even going far further down that road. I would say a lot has to do with the fact that people in the last 40 years face more privatized insecurity as consumers, as lovers, as students, as employees. And the way you deal with risk and uncertainty is that you create your own assumptions, how to protect or when they will hit them. And then you end up in this lumen world of autopoietic corners in society who have nothing with each other to do anymore. And that's, I think, where we are with this alternative facts. Everybody paints his own picture of what they want reality to be.
Interesting. Yeah, the linking it back to security is fascinating. I'm doing some research on millennials, and we're really seeing some of that happening. So very interesting and beautiful photo. And Andreas.
Yeah, so we're creating perceptions of truth, and before Jerry spoke about his picture, I was about to take a selfie because my wife works for Fidelity, and I was like, you know what you're working for. So we're creating perceptions, and one quite recent perception that relates to all of us, and I'm sure people will be tempted to look up, is this is the ranking of, I think it's called the K-score of the Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and 2 other channels, engagement of about 140 academics in the topic of CSR. I'm unbiased because I'm not in it, but for instance, Tima's in it, and I think Dirk's in it, and I'm pretty sure you're in it. But maybe and so anybody can look themselves up on that ranking. It comes from Bath. So, I posted that link on a WhatsApp group that is about African CSR, and the African professor is reasonably well rated in the top 40, and he gets tons of congrats. So it kind of changes behavior to a degree, probably possibly somewhat more short term, because most of these channels are very short term, maybe with the exception of LinkedIn. And it creates a truth about what academic curious could be about. And if you look at the leader in that table, he's tweeting a lot. And so it's just an example of how we create truth in our own field to a degree. And then we might be interesting to study the kind of distributions of perceived truth.